Today's project is a garden trowel. So I'm going to do a little bit of blacksmithing. I'm making this from a piece of truck leaf spring. And I started out by drawing down the thickness. The leaf spring was probably a 1/4 inch thick, so a little too thick. And just basically hammering on it and trying to draw that thickness down a little bit. Next, I cut out a pattern, basic shape for the garden trowel, and marked that out on the leaf spring, and then used an angle grinder to cut that out. So once I had that basic shape cut out, I needed a little bit more length on the tang. So I was back in the forge and then drew out the tang so I could get the right length. It was still a little thick, so a little more drawing down and trying to get a little bit of a taper on the edges there as well. I'm cutting off those corners there with the angle grinder and then smoothing out that shape there and trying to get a little bit of a curved shape between the handle and the shovel. So once I had the basic shape, I wanted to put an arc in it, and just use the table or the step part of the anvil and tried to get that curved shape. It was a little bit challenging. Didn't want to curve exactly how I wanted it to, so it took a little bit of practice of moving it around and hammering in just the right places so that it was a smooth curve. And it tends to want to warp a little bit, what I found. So it took a little bit of practice to try and do that and get a good looking shape. This is a gardening tool. I didn't really want to get all the forge marks out and get it real smooth. So I just got a pretty rough finish on it. Heated it up and did a hot blue with wax and boiled linseed oil. I did about 3 coats of heating and applying the wax and the oil. So I had a few pieces of copper there, cutting out to go on the handle. Didn't really have a thick enough piece, so what I did was I took about 3 pieces and welded those together with my torch so I'd have a thicker piece to go on the handle. Those little pieces in between was a brazing rod. I just cut out little pieces of brazing rod, put them in between the pieces of copper and heated it up, and then sanded it down. There I'm just marking out that copper piece so I could drill some holes and cut out the slot for the tang to fit through. Went ahead and ground the corners off and buffed it. The idea that I had for this piece was to use my torch after it was polished and form an oxidation layer on the copper, and it makes various different colors: purple, blue, orange. So I was just using the torch to try and get some colors on this piece, some kind of interesting colors. Once I had it where I liked it, I applied some clear varnish, spray varnish on it, and let that dry, and that sealed that oxidation layer and the colors onto that piece. And I'm cutting out the handle there, piece of teak. Just drill a hole in the handle, and then I cut a dowel in half and put that on both sides of the tang and insert that into the handle for the glue up. So a little bit of 5-minute epoxy on all the pieces. Assembled it, clamped it all together, and let it dry. And once it was dry, all I had left to do was a little bit of sanding on the handle. Applied some linseed oil to the handle to give it a decent finish. And there's the finished piece. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video, and we'll see you next time.